Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I'm gonna be doing a tier list video, and I'm just gonna be ranking college majors. Since I'm a college student myself, I feel like I have a little bit of expertise on the subject. So without further ado, let's just get on with it. So the first major here we're gonna consider is psychology. So for me, I'd probably have to put it in C tier. When I think of psychology majors, I think of people who take the major because they think they're going to be able to solve their friends and even their own emotional problems. They're going to be able to make cold reads about people upon meeting them. But in reality, it feels like just a very mid-major. I feel like you don't really learn a whole lot. It feels like one of those majors where you just kind of forget everything after you take the test. It's like a lot of memorization. And I feel like you really have to go to grad school to get a really good job for it. So for me, it's got to be C tier. So next we got business/economics. We're kind of going to group them both in the same category since they're very similar. For me, I would go A tier. Like, listen, I know I just kind of diss psychology, and psychology is 100% more interesting in my opinion than business economics, but at the very least, you're gonna make bank if you know your stuff and you network. You lock down a solid job. You don't necessarily need like an MBA or something to get decent pay right out of college. And again, it's pretty boring major. It feels like the one everyone chooses when they're not really sure what they want to do. But you can't really go wrong with it. And I mean, no one's saying you have to stay in it if you take it for a couple of years, take the classes, and you don't really like it, right? So I think it goes A tier. So for our next one, we got political science, poli-sci. And like psych, I mean, I feel like it's just a very mid-major. I would probably put it C. I mean, it's cool that you get to study, history a little bit. You get to learn about politicians, and you get to learn about political philosophies and obviously global conflicts. All that stuff is cool, but I feel like people who take this major, they expect to go on and do really big things, have these positions of power or in government, and then they don't often get them. And even if they do, they're often not all they thought they would be, like they're not all they're cracked up to be, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I feel like I gotta put it C. And I mean, it also feels like one of those majors where you really have to cater to the professor's opinion, especially when you're writing essays. You can't really write freely in a lot of colleges nowadays, but especially for this major. So I would go C tier. Now on to computer science. So hopefully you CS majors don't get too pissed at me for the picture I chose, but I'm gonna pay you guys back by putting CS in A tier because it's honestly a good major. You're gonna end up making a lot of money, and you're probably gonna get a decent job if you can get one. Like, I know the market's like super oversaturated right now, but you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna pick up a lot of skills. Just try not to faint in class because of your classmates' terrible BO. You might want to bring something to cover your nose with, but we'll put it in A tier. Alright, so the next major is actually my major, and that's stats and data science. And for me, I think I have to put it A tier. I think it's a super useful major, and it's applicable to a number of industries. Like, there's definitely some stuff that's really boring in the major, like just statistical proofs to prove theories, and that stuff, nobody really cares about that stuff, I gotta say. But there's also really cool stuff in the major that I think kind of carries it. You have machine learning, hypothesis testing, confidence intervals, sampling, building really cool data visualizations, and I think it's honestly pretty interesting. And again, you get pretty decent pay right out of college for the most part, and yeah, the world's kind of your oyster. You can make it in a lot of different industries. So for me, A tier. So now we got theater/film. I'm a minor in film at my school, so again, I can speak with a bit more objectivity for this one. And I think I gotta go C tier. It's fun, like film classes are always easy. They can sometimes be super interesting depending on the class you pick. Like classes that are more centered around like actually watching movies and breaking down scenes rather than the business side of film, I find more interesting. But again, I just feel like some of these film kids, kind of like poli-sci, they just take it way too seriously, like the whole drama queen, drama king kind of stereotype definitely is a thing in this major. And the reality is it's so hard to get a good job in film, and go on to become the next Leo DiCaprio or the next Martin Scorsese. So I gotta put it C tier just because you're probably not gonna be the most successful if you pick this major, but it is fun. So the next major we have is an interesting one. It's another kind of grouping, and it's just people that study some sort of language or culture, like Japanese studies or Spanish studies, whatever it might be. I always found these majors to be pretty interesting. I'll put it B tier. I feel like the job prospects for this major probably aren't amazing, but it sounds super interesting. Some of the stuff you learn, just being able to learn a lot about a different culture and then visit and just kind of fit in. I'm sure you're not going to know everything, but it just sounds like a cool concept to me. And again, some of the classes just sound amazing. Like at my school, if you're majoring in Italian studies, you can take a course where you literally just learn about the history of Italian food and how it's made. That sounds awesome, So I can't really rank it any lower than B tier. Okay, so for our next one, this one's gonna get some controversy, no doubt about it. But we got gender studies, and yeah, this is going straight to F tier. Listen, if you're looking for a major that will make it a guarantee that you'll be flipping burgers at McDonald's the rest of your life, this is your major, zero job prospects. I think it's completely unnecessary to begin with, and I just don't see any reason why someone would want to major in this. Again, you guys can disagree with me if I'm wrong, I'll take it, but I really don't think it belongs anywhere other than F tier, so that's my 2 cents. Alright, so now we got engineering, and this immediately goes to S tier. It's a really great major, and it's challenging, but it's super rewarding. You're gonna make a lot of money once you graduate, and engineers, they're responsible for some of the coolest, most important cutting edge things in the world. They're responsible for robotics, they're responsible for aerospace innovation, and without them, we'd be in a lot of trouble. They're kind of the architects of our future in a way. So I admire them a lot, and you kind of feel like Tony Stark or something, when you're an engineer, and you just gotta respect it. I think it goes S tier for me. Next, our boy Dr. Hartman. He's going to be representing Bio/Pre-Med, and this is also going S tier. Now this one in particular is a lot more just because I respect the major, rather than, the sort of jobs people get or whatever. Doctors make amazing money in terms of, money, but their jobs are super hard, and stressful, and I don't think there's that many people that are cut out for it, You have to go through so many years of school and spend so much money on your education, but they really make a difference in people's lives. And without doctors, we would be in some serious trouble. So I gotta put them S tier, I gotta do it, man. Now for chemistry, I would probably say A or B, leaning towards, not S, leaning towards A. I think chemistry is super cool. I was never good at it in high school, but again, it's a difficult STEM major that usually leads to pretty good jobs. So I respect people that do it. I mean, I don't have too much to say about it because I don't really have much experience with it, and I don't really know anyone majoring in chemistry, but from a pretty neutral perspective, I think it's a solid major. I gotta go A. Now next we got kind of a special category, and this is people that don't go to college, or they go to a trade school, something like that. I think this is 100% A tier. And hear me out on this, right? College tuition has only gotten more and more expensive, like over the last 50 years, and it's probably only going to get more expensive. And I feel like the value of a college education, especially in America, is just decreasing, little by little. I feel like you're able to pick up skills on your own without having to go to college and still get a solid job. Like take my major, right? Stats and data science. A lot of those skills you can learn by yourself on Coursera or some other resource online, right? And you can pick up a job, just through that. So I honestly respect people that they look at the college experience and they're like, I'm not going to waste all this time and money for something that I can pursue on my own, being a job. So I totally respect these people. And I think it's underrated. A tier. So now on to history. So history for me, I think it's got to go C tier. You can learn some pretty interesting stuff as a history major, but kind of like poli-sci, just feels like a lot of writing and reading to nowhere, The job prospects aren't great. I mean, you can become a history professor, teacher, or, historian, I guess. You can work on like those cool documentaries, like the ones Ken Burns made. I always like those, watching those in class, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like the most interesting major most of the time, other than when you're learning about like the world wars or, like the Enlightenment or, like the French Revolution. Like I'm just kind of naming like my favorite historical like periods and events at this point, but I don't know. It's not really for me because I don't really like to write and read a ton. And if you do, that's great. But yeah, I mean, for me, pretty average. I gotta go C tier. So next we got English, English literature, those kinds of majors. That's D tier for me. I mean, this is like history, but even worse. I mean, you're reading these just really obtuse and, difficult to decipher texts, and you're just overthinking the crap out of them, Like, oh man, what does this semicolon, this random character's dialogue mean? Does it indicate something about their inner psyche? Like, I don't know, man. I feel like it's just a little too much for me when it comes to that sort of stuff with this major. And again, the job prospects are horrible. I mean, you're not going to be making much money as a writer. I mean, very competitive, and yeah, you gotta go D tier. So next we got physics. That is probably A or B. I think I'm gonna go A. It's maybe the hardest major in this tier list. I've heard some pretty horrifying things about physics majors. Like some of the stuff you'll learn, like, jeez, I don't think I'd be able to understand it if I studied it for an entire lifetime. But at the same time, I feel like physics is fundamentally super interesting, just because you can really use it to break down the human experience and just the world we live in such a cool and interesting way, breaking things down to subatomic particles and seeing how everything makes up everything, like all that sounds really, really intriguing. At least it always has to me. But again, I just don't think I'm smart enough to understand a lot of the concepts in physics. And I think most people probably aren't either. So that's why, you really gotta be kind of a genius, I feel like, to major in physics, get a good job, and know what you're talking about. So I'll put it in A tier. Good major for sure. You're gonna get paid well, but boy, it's a tough one. So next we have astronomy. I will probably put this B tier. I think similar to physics, it's really interesting, Yeah, I mean, getting to learn about the solar system and exoplanets, black holes, deaths of stars, all these things, right? Like, that's fundamentally interesting stuff. But understanding it and learning about it, like, those are two different things. And understanding it takes a really smart person. And the thing that I think astronomy doesn't have that physics does is like more job variety. I feel like you're kind of restricted in terms of what you might want to take on professionally as an astronomy major. But it does seem interesting, so I'm not gonna, give it a really bad rating here. I think B is pretty reasonable. So for communications, yeah, that's gonna be D tier. It's a super easy major, but I feel like you probably don't learn like anything if you're a communication major. And I mean, communications majors that are watching this, like, let me know if I'm wrong, but I feel like you guys have so much free time because the classes just sound so easy. I mean, you just learn about talking, It doesn't really sound like the most complicated thing in the world, And again, in terms of job prospects, not amazing, but I guess you can become a reporter or you can work at a news network, something like that. Work in marketing maybe. But yeah, it just never really seemed all that interesting to me. And again, it doesn't take a whole lot of skill or intelligence, I feel like, so D tier. So next we got education. Yeah, I used the breaking benches photo for this one. Just because when I think of an education major, I guess I think of that overweight gym teacher at your high school that like tells you to run faster, even though they probably wouldn't be able to run more than a quarter of a lap around the track by themselves without collapsing. But education's a super important major because we need teachers that can impact kids' lives and set them up for the real world. But man, that pay is just really bad, and I know a lot of teachers are miserable, so I don't think I can give it any better than C. Alright, so now that we've covered some of the main majors at most colleges, I figured I'd throw in a few fun ones, just to add a bit of spice to this video. So we're going to start with viticulture and enology. So this one's essentially just like winemaking, I guess. Sounds pretty interesting. I would probably give it A tier. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, you can literally, I guess, get drunk for homework assignments. Like, that sounds kind of fun, not gonna lie. Who am I kidding though? I mean, what job are you gonna get with this major? Yeah, it probably belongs like B or C. I don't know, we'll put it in C. Then we got puppetry. Yeah, this is F. I mean, who's gonna study puppetry at a college? Like, that concept just, well, first off, it just weirds me out, and second, it makes me wonder if this person's like okay mentally. I don't really know what you're gonna do after college with that degree, but I mean, more power to you, I guess, if you choose it. Then we got a really interesting one, packaging science. And yeah, this is going straight to F tier as well. I mean, how sad does your life have to be that what you want to learn in life is packaging science? How to put things in boxes. And I guess become one of Jeff Bezos' minions, work at Amazon. Like, dang. It just doesn't sound like the life of someone respectable. Next, we got a pretty interesting one in my opinion, though, and that's bowling industry management. Like, I don't know why they specifically singled out the bowling industry, but I gotta put that B tier. I mean, it honestly sounds super cool. Just learning, I guess, about how to manage a bowling alley or something like that. Maybe you get to do some bowling for your homework assignment. I got no idea, but I mean, the concept of it sounds cool. So I'm giving it B tier. And finally, we got culinary arts, and yeah, this is A tier. No, not quite S tier. Yeah, this is A tier. I mean, you actually learn skills that can be valuable, well, that are valuable, honestly. Learning how to cook some really cool dishes, and people like people that can cook good food, you know what I mean? So, quite honestly, this is not the worst major to pick at all. I mean, if you get lucky enough and you're talented enough, you could work at a really high-end restaurant and make pretty good money. So, I honestly respect this major a lot, you know. You never have to worry about food the rest of your life because you know you got your own back. So, yeah, with that being said, I think this is going to be our final tier list. Looks pretty balanced overall. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And comment down below what you want to see next. I'm going to try to make tier list videos like these every week if I can. So expect that moving forward. And yeah, glad you tuned in. Have a good rest of your day.